What's up, people? Today we will be replacing the rear coolant flange on this Audi A4 2008 B7. For this job, we bought two kits from ECS Tuning. One kit, the kit on the right, is the cooling flange replacement kit, and the kit on the left is an oil service kit. Now we'll remove the oil. So for the oil removal, you need a 19mm socket with a wrench. And please wear gloves because this will get messy. Alright, so you can use the wrench to loosen it a bit, and then you're gonna have to use your hands. And there we go. Okay, so next for the oil filter. This you need to do after releasing all the oil, and it is way down there. First we had to use a wrench to loosen it a bit, and now we're going to use a container and put it on the bottom of it because there's still some oil in the filter, and some oil will come out when you do this. So also keep wearing gloves for this. Alright, I've put the container in place, and now I will just unscrew the filter. Let me get the container. There it comes. There we go. That is a lot of oil. Okay, let me get it out. It's very slippery. Okay, and there it is. That's all the oil. Okay, so with this oil, you're just gonna dump it in the pan as you do with the rest of the oil. Just set it down, remove it. And maybe leave it in here so it can just drip a little bit, and then just relieve all the oil. Okay, so now to prepare the oil filter. First thing you want to do is there's an O-ring in here, an old one, and there's a tab, and you want to remove the O-ring with using the tab with some pliers. You'll see it kind of comes out. It's a bit sticky. Almost got it. I'm going to finish with my hands, it'll be a little easier. There we go, and then just place it in the oil pan, and then you're going to take your new oil ring, and first you want to take a little oil and put that around the outside of the ring. Just a little, grease it up a little. And now that you've done that, you're going to place it in with the tab on top again, just like the old one. And then push it in, make sure that it sits well. And then finally, you're going to put in the new oil filter. Just goes in like that. And that's how you set up the oil filter, the new one. Okay, now to put in the new oil filter, you're gonna put it in the same way you took it out, and then begin to hand tighten it. It's a little difficult from this angle, but with both hands it should be possible. Okay, and now you're going to use a torque wrench and set it to 26 Newton meters to fully put in the oil filter and make sure it's in place. Okay, so now to finish the oil changing process, we're going to put the screw in again. First, tighten it a bit by hand. It can be a little slippery. There we go. Okay, and now let me quickly wipe off my hand. And up here, you want to use your torque wrench and set it to 30 Newton meters of torque and finish it off. Let me move that out of the way. Okay, and then you hear it click, so that means it's at 30 Newton meters of torque, and that means you can stop. And now we finished the oil changing process. Okay, so next we need to drain the coolant. So what you want to do is you want to take some pliers, and there's this little switch over here that you want to attach them to, and then you want to simply just open them. It might take a few turns. Can be kind of difficult to see. And you want to try and stay away from it because there's acid in it and you don't want that getting in your eyes. So be careful. Okay, now to get ready to remove the coolant flange. So first you want to take off the engine cover. It's just sitting on there. And now we're going to start removing some pipes. We're going to remove this pipe right here. And by remove, I just mean move it to the side. And then this one back here, this one, and some of the ones down here. And we've also removed this already. It's just one screw that's here that you need to take out, and you just pull it out and then move it to the side. so now to remove the vacuum pump, there are 3 bolts. They're all Torx 30s for the vacuum pump. There's 2 on the top, one right here, and there's one way at the bottom. That one's really tough. We've already removed the one at the bottom, so now we just gotta do the ones at the top. Let's see if we can get this vacuum pump loose. And there's the vacuum pump. Okay, so now for the coolant flange. First thing you want to do is disconnect the coolant pipe on top of the engine. You need to do that in the front here, and also down here on the part that does not connect to the coolant flange. Next, you want to disconnect the line down here using a tool like such to remove the clip and then wiggle off the bottom hose. And then finally there is a electric clip that you want to disconnect as well. Then you need to use Torx 30 screws and a wrench to disconnect to remove the 2 bolts attached to the coolant flange. They're on diagonal ends, and you kind of have to reach in around back here from both sides to really get a good grasp on them. Then once you've removed that, you want to remove this breathing hose here. You simply just push on the ends and then pull out. And now you can go ahead and remove the flange. And there we go. Here's the pipe with the coolant flange. So when we look at the old flange here, we can see that the O-ring on the outside has started to deteriorate and even break off. If you can see, like here, it's on the outside and then it just cut off. Some of it might be still on where it connects to the engine, so you'll have to use a pick to remove that. If you look at the new ring, there's a completely solid O-ring, and then when you compare it here, it's like all molten and oily and greasy and cut off, and that's the reason why there's a leak. So this needs to be fixed as soon as possible. Okay, so now to disassemble these parts here. So the first thing you want to do is you want to take some pliers and you want to remove the temperature sensor by removing this clip. Now this clip is different because you need to fully remove it, not like the other clips in the car. Like that. And then you should be able to pull out the sensor. Next, you want to use some of these hose clamp pliers and remove this clamp right here to remove the flange from the hose. And what you want to do is you want to mark where the two meet so that when you reassemble the parts, you know how to put in the hose. And there we go, it's completely free. Okay, so now we've got to remove this hose here with the clamp pliers as well. Let's try that again. There we go. That's that clamp, and now let's remove this hose. Man, it's really stuck on there. You might have to cut it. If you already broke the hose, then it doesn't matter if you break it anymore, so. There we go. We got that off. And now there's still some glue and stuff on here, so you have to remove that however you want to. I'm gonna try and use a pick to remove it. This might take a little while. So as you can see in the old coolant temperature sensor, it's kind of dark and there's even some blue color from the coolant. And when you look at the new one, it's more goldish and shiny, so you can see that this one's taken a lot of wear as well. Now to do the new coolant sensor, first we're going to take the new temperature sensor and we're going to take the O-ring and dip it in a bit of coolant. Just go on around the outside and put some coolant on. You can use soap as well, but I'm going to use coolant. Then you want to put it on top of the sensor and then into the flange. And you want to push it in quite far. You want to push it until you can't see the gold part anymore. Then you want to take your new clip and simply just clip it on. There we go. And now we're going to put it back onto this pipes. So look at your old sensor and see how it was aligned. We had aligned it right right here. Okay. Something like this. And then let's go ahead and stick it back on. Now that it's on, you're going to take your hose clamp pliers and put the clamp back on the hose to fully secure it. And there you go. That's how you reattach your new coolant flange. So now we're going to put in one of the pipes. This is the one on the right side. And what you want to do is you want to find the longer end, and you want to find this sort of like T-shaped, I-shaped thing. And this white part needs to go in like this, so that you need to be able to see this white part from the right side when you put it in. And it's going to be kind of tight, so you're going to have to force it on there. And there we go. So now we're going to put in the big coolant hose. This part right here connects with the coolant hose we just put in, and then this of course goes on the back of the engine. So let's go ahead and fit it in. It's going to be kind of tight because it's a big piece, but just kind of force it through. There we go. So now that we've fitted all the hoses again, we need to put the clamps back on. There's about 2 or 3 clamps, one up here, one here, and one down here. Then we need to also put on that clip down that comes from this hose, and also the electrical socket. We need to put that back on the temperature sensor. And then we also need to put in the Torx 30 screws again on the flange, and then we should be good on the coolant section. So we've attached some clamps down here. Now we're going to attach the Torx screws back to the main coolant hose. There's one down here. There we go. And then there is another one right up here. Screw it in with your hand first little and then use the wrench. It'll be a lot easier that way. There we go. And then let's connect this air breather pipe again. It's pretty simple, just snaps right on. And then we'll connect these two hoses here. First, just push it back on. Make sure it's all the way on, and then use your hose clamp pliers to put the clamp back on. There we go. And then finally, we will attach one more hose clamp back here. Let me put the new bit on. There we go. And then there we go. And then finally, let's attach the final triple square that is right up here on the gas line. And there you go. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to attach the Torx bolts to the back of the coolant flange and also attach the clips and the electric socket back to the coolant flange. Now we're going to put in the Torx bit, the Torx screws for the coolant flange. So you want to kind of put your hands around the engine and feel for the flange and then go back and find the hole. And then once you get it in with your hand a little bit, you want to use a torque wrench, and you want to set it to 10 Newton meters and put in the rest of the screw. Okay, so now that I've got the screw in, I'm going to get the torque wrench and wrench it in. Okay, so now we have successfully wrenched in the bolts for the coolant, or the Torx screws for the coolant flange, and we've also clipped in the clip at the bottom and the electric socket for the coolant temperature sensor. And now we're going to put in the vacuum pump again. Now you want to make sure that this here is aligned with the way it is in there. Now if you didn't move it when it was outside, it should be good because it wouldn't have moved in there, but just be careful when you put it back in so that you don't jam it in incorrectly. And it goes in something of like this. we go. And then start putting in the top screws first, so you can. We'll worry about the top or the bottom screw after, once we start tightening the top screws. And that's it. Now that you've manually screwed in the top two screws a little bit, the Torx screws, now you're going to use the ratchet and ratchet them in all the way. And then you're going to do the same thing with the other bolt. Okay, so a quick update. We just put in the vacuum pump, the third screw on the bottom, but it's kind of tricky because you have to put the screw through a bracket first and then through the vacuum pump. So what you need to do is you need to put your hand around the engine from the left side and from the top, and then just push in the screw first with your hand, and then use a ratchet to fully ratchet it in and tighten it. Okay, so now what we did is we put in this bracket over here again. We used a 5mm 12-point bit for that. And then what you want to do is you want to take your electrical sockets and put them back in. Just simply slide them on, and you'll know they're in when you hear a click. I don't know if you heard that, but that's an example. And then you put this one here. And then this one down here. This one might be a little difficult because you gotta squeeze it through. Maybe you can open here and remove this a bit. It might make it a little easier. Yeah. There we go. There we go. And then we're gonna put the vacuum pump wire back on. So this right here, you want to put your clamp on it, and then it goes in the top of the vacuum pump. You may want to secure this grommet here and here first. There we go. And then simply just tighten the hose clamp. And there you go. Okay, now we're getting to the end. We just put in the coolant tank again. What we had to do is remove the lower hose from the tank to get it back in these two holders back here. Then what next thing you want to do is you want to take the sensor and put it back in the bottom of the coolant tank. Make sure this one clicks as well. There we go. And then take your screw and put it back in here. This screw is just a regular plus screwdriver screw, so you don't need any special wrenches for this one. And there we go. All that's left is to put the oil and the coolant back in. Now to refill the oil. So here is the place where you want to refill it. Just open the lid. There we go. And then I would recommend using a funnel, something like this, to put in the oil. And you want to put in about 4.6 liters of oil. And now that all that's left is the coolant. Okay, so now for the coolant, what we did is we mixed 1.5 liters of distilled water and 1.5 liters of coolant, and now we're gonna put it in the tank. We're gonna put this in the tank and then wait about 5 minutes, and the level will probably drop a bit because the coolant's gonna go into the system, and then we're gonna fill it up again to the max so that we have enough coolant in the system. Okay, so now that we've filled up the coolant, we're gonna start the car. You should probably let the car idle for about 5 minutes. Let the coolant level sink a little bit, then fill it up to max, and you should be good to go. Anyways, that's it. If you enjoyed the video, please like and consider subscribing, and I'll see you another time.